Hey, amazing people, I'm back. The Law of Divine Compensation on Work, Money, and Miracles by Marianne Williamson. I am in Chapter 9, Transcending Fear. Let's get started. None of this love it and it will all be okay stuff sounds attractive or even sane to the ego mind. Yet our spiritual task in life is to overcome the ego. The ego is the mind of fear. It is our own mental power turned against ourselves. It is the part of us that thinks that we have to struggle to get ahead, that we must compete with everyone else, and that there is only so much success to go around. But the ego mind is not the truth of who we are, and what it says is not true. It is our own self-hatred masquerading as self-love. The ego purports to help us while actually luring us into the anxious hell of confused and confusing thoughts. The ego consists of and perpetuates the chronic self-destructive patterns by which we sabotage ourselves, blow opportunities, destroy relationships, and undermine ourselves in a myriad of ways. Yet these self-defeating patterns don't announce themselves as such. The ego is very seductive. It comes in the guise of responsible considerations, telling us something that is reasonable that only later we realize wasn't reasonable at all. It just seemed, for some insane reason, like a good idea at the time. This is in all caps, and I mean bold. The ego or fear mind is the false belief that we are separate from God. The egoic fear-based thinking of the world, which is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God, falls like a veil in front of our eyes, obscuring what is real. So how do we transcend the ego and lift the veil? This veil of illusion is automatically lifted when we remember who we are and why we're here. The key to power in any situation is to be clear about two things. Who am I really and why am I here? Those two questions answered correctly give you the power to work miracles. Your mind is holy because it is a creation of God. It was created for the purpose of extending His love into the world. Your work is geared to success and to the extent that it is dedicated to love's purposes. Remember this, and your mind will be filled with an impenetrable power. Until and unless we align ourselves with spiritual truth, we are vulnerable to the ego thoughts. According to A Course in Miracles, with every thought we are either host to God or hostage to the ego. I remember years ago telling myself I didn't have to worry about the devil. I had realized that there was no evil force out there stalking the planet for human souls. That idea was all in my mind. But then I realized that this is the worst place it could possibly be. It is not like good news or something that it's not like good news or something that the only place darkness exists is inside of your head. The ego is a constant temptation, dwelling in all of us to perceive without love. It creates a limitation. Then it would have us to believe that the limitation is insurmountable. It manufactures a problem, then it would convince us that the problem is intractable. The fact that the ego is inside your mind, it in no way means that it is your friend. On the other hand, the fact that it is inside your mind means that you yourself can change it. A man at one of my lectures once told me that he lived a happy life as a piano teacher, but with the recession hitting people so hard, he wasn't teaching enough students to be able to make a living. Dan said he had prayed for a miracle. So far, so good. Not long afterwards, he received notification about a job that had opened up in an educational institution near where he lived, a job that seemed to fit his qualifications. He had been highly recommended for the position and felt certain that he had a good chance of getting it. Okay, still so far, so good. The law of divine compensation seems to be doing its thing. But then the ego went to work. Here is how Dan described his process of thinking. The problem, he told himself, was that such jobs as this are too political, too fraught with institutional drama, and he would have to play a certain kind of game in order to vie for the position. After much consideration, he decided not to apply. Notice how the ego wormed its way into his thinking. Yes, I prayed for a miracle, but I decided that what came my way wasn't good enough. If it were really a miracle, it would look exactly as I'd imagined it. You ever did that? Because I know I have. I've done that many times. Whew, it's not so good, right? Especially when you realize you let a good opportunity go by because you were waiting for it to look a different way. But it can come back. Notice how sly the ego is here, deflecting the opportunity in the name of values. It would have him to think that his fear-based choice was somehow ethically superior. What would a miracle-minded process look like instead? First, once you pray for a miracle, consider it done. Second, be alert for the universe to show you an opportunity, even if it doesn't look like what you'd expect. The fact that a possible solution to your problem comes in a form that your ego hadn't planned is usually more rather than less a sign that it's coming from God. I asked Dan how he could be sure politics would actually be involved. The scuttlebutt on the street that the situation was political was based on past situations that didn't even pertain to him. It wasn't necessarily true, and even if it had been, it didn't have to apply to him in the present. How could he be certain of what the situation might be before he even opened himself up to the experience? He was like someone whose doorbell rang and who, without even opening the door, presumed to know who was on the other side, what that person was wearing, what he or she was there for, so he decided not to open the door. It's not enough that miracles are always coming into us. We must be receptive or miracle ready. To receive a miracle, we must have an open mind as well as an open heart. The ego would close both. Being open to miracles is a discipline and an art. We should be aware of thinking that we know what a miracle will look like, what shape it will take, or what form it will come in. In fact, the very nature of miracles is that they represent the interruption of a pattern and the discontinuation of the status quo. I'm going to say that again because I like that. In fact, the very nature of a miracle is that they represent the interruption of a pattern, a discontinuation of the status quo. The law of divine compensation forges a new trajectory, one that isn't based on the past, but rather only on God's love for you. God does not know of limits, nor bow before the ego's dictates of scarcity and lack. He doesn't share the ego's shabby assessment of you, and neither should you. How do we get rid of our mental intruder? The ego isn't something to get rid of, because in actuality, it doesn't exist. It's simply a mortal hallucination that we've all bought into. It is the absence of love, the same way darkness is the absence of light. I remember Jan Levon's aunt saying the ego stands for edging God out. When we turn light into darkness, when we turn on the light, the darkness disappears. And when we turn on love, the ego disappears. Whatever we devote to truth will be able to withstand lies. According to A Course in Miracles, we think we have many different problems, but we really only have one: our separation from God. Several years ago, after one of my talks, a man came up to me and said, "All this lean on God stuff isn't me." I told him that in my own life, whenever I hadn't leaned on God, I found myself leaning on someone or something else, and I'd been better off not leaning on either. I would have said to him, "Okay." Okay. But that's not her job to do that. It's not a weakness to lean on the power of the universe that resides within us. It is a myth that we can be the lone hero, not depending on anyone or anything else. The soul leans. That is a part of its nature. Idolatry is when we lean on something or someone that is not in fact the source of our ultimate good, thinking that for some insane reason, I gotta go back because I read that wrong. Adultery is when we lean on something or someone that is not in fact the source of our ultimate good, thinking for some insane reason that it is. This is an almost inevitable temptation for all of us living, as we do in a world where the material plane is deemed the only true reality. This mistaken thought that the material world is our salvation is insanely at the heart of all errors. It is the ego's central delusion. In our work lives, this delusion can lead to various errors. Fear masquerades as humility. Irresponsible behavior masquerades as reasonable risks. Overspending masquerades as an attitude of abundance. Unethical advertising masquerades as no big deal. Financial shenanigans masquerade as merely how things are done. Our connection to the spiritual plane is the antidote to the ego's insanity. It gives us a sense of wisdom, scale, and righteousness. It gives us confidence and power. It is the prayer that our work be used by God to make the world a better place. Bob Dylan captured this in his truth song. Bob Dylan captured this truth in his song, Gotta Serve Somebody. It may be the devil, it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. Not serving someone or something is not an option. Pray to serve the universe, and the universe will serve you. That which is proactively placed in the service of love is protected from the grips of fear. That which is proactively placed in the service of deep sanity is protected from the grips of neurosis. That which is proactively placed in the service of what is good, holy, and beautiful is protected from the forces of destruction. And when it's proactively, it means you are actively doing it. Sometimes we make decisions because the decision actually made us. And we're like, oh, I got to do that because you weren't proactive, you didn't think something through. So now you're left with this choice and you just choose it. You're never left with one choice, though. There's always more choices. Oh, so I just want to brag a little bit, guys. See these big old hoops that I made? Aren't they gorgeous? So, my hair. So they are, they were wire, and I pounded them, circled them, and I gotta perfect the connection part, but I'm going to because they're so lightweight and you can hardly see them, but you can really see them. Anywho, when I perfect them, then I'll put them on sale. Let me go back to this. I just wanted to show y'all these earrings. Take yourself, your work, and the God within you seriously. Dedicate yourself daily, hourly, even moment by moment to love's purposes, and the ego won't have a chance. It knows a holy mind when it sees one. My ego is trying to take control of a situation that I gave away to love a long time ago. I'm not going to let that ego win. I'm not even going to let the ego think it's going to win. When I finish this, I'm going right into a meditation, holding my heart and giving it all back over to love. I will not live by the ego anymore. I did that for many, many years in my life, and it is not a good space. So no more ego living for me. And it shouldn't be any for you either. And I know people say, well, you need the ego because it keeps you safe. No, it doesn't keep you safe. It puts you right into the fire. This is a prayer. So let's take a deep breath in and out. Do that again. Inhale and exhale. Dear God, I dedicate to you my talents and abilities. May they be used in ways that serve your purposes. I surrender to you my business and finances. May my work be lifted to its highest possibility as a blessing on all the world. Amen. Thank you so very much. Remember, I won't be back until Monday. We'll be back Monday, chapter 10, positivity. This weekend, I intend to perfect these because I think they're really cute. And I got to comb through my hair because even though my daughter has the microlinks in it, my hair is still out and it's knotting up in the roots, and I don't want to do that. I can see it. You can see some of it just knotting up in the roots, so I don't want to do that to my hair because I'm not trying to lock again. Anywho, have an amazing weekend, you amazing people. Thank you so very much. Like, share, subscribe if you feel to.